Hey guys, this is Barrett with the Gimpy Camper. Welcome to our second installment on the series of how to prevent water damage in your RV. So our first step in doing so in our first video was the RV armor roof. We have that put on. Don't ever have to worry about that roof again. If you've not checked that video out, you need to go back and do it. In part two here, we're going to be talking about how to make sure those seals are good on the sides of the camper. Because I have that RV armor roof, I don't worry about the roof anymore. But you can still get water damage from other things besides the RV roof. Common areas that you can have failure in your sealants are around windows, around doors, around the awning here. Mine's actually pulled loose on the top. I have to fix that. Around the cargo doors, around all of the trim on the front, the back, where the aluminum meets, everywhere that it's not just plain fiberglass and something's up against there is a point of entry for water if it's not sealed correctly. So, how do you know that it's sealed correctly? Well, up until now, I thought it was all trial and error, which that's a lot of trial and error, you know. But everything that I've ever seen and everything I've ever heard just shows basically you go and you look at the sealant and you make sure that it looks okay. If it's worn away in places, you cut it out and you put more sealant in. Makes sense, right? But can you be 100% that you got every little spot? Because it's only going to take one spot in order to be a real big pain in the future. I do not want to deal with delamination or anything like that ever again. This is a brand new camper. I want it to stay 100% sound structurally. So I was perusing through Facebook about a month ago and I saw that this place in Cleveland, Tennessee named Shelburne RV, which isn't that far from our home base, had a new toy. But it really got my mind to working because I looked at it and I thought I knew what it was and I was pretty sure, and it turns out I did. So I talked to him over at Shelburne RV, and basically this takes the guesswork out of sealing your camper. You no longer have to worry about if you got every little spot sealed real good on there. So if you're around the Cleveland area, I suggest you give them a call. Their number is going to be right down here. But I'm going to hook this thing up. In the morning, we're going to go over to Shelburne RV, and Steve's going to tell you about this process himself. So we'll see you tomorrow. All right, guys, so I'm here with Steve Shelburne at Shelburne RV in Cleveland, Tennessee. And Steve, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Number one, why would somebody think about going to a private repair shop like this other than a dealer?
Well, you know, and I get asked that question every once in a while of, you know, what's more important, the big dealerships or some of the smaller mom and pop stores. And I'll tell you, the biggest reason is because I feel like we actually take the time to talk to people. I try to help people understand why their camper did what it did. I try to take the time to talk to them about the repair, and hopefully, you know, it's something that we can work through, we can talk about, and you know, they might want to do the repair themselves next time. And I tell my customers, whether you need me to come do the repair here, you know, you might just want to call me and say hi. You know, I build a relationship with my customers where if you need me, you call me. You know, there's not very many places where you as a customer can pick up the phone and talk to the owner on the phone and go, hey, you know, Steve, this is what I got going on. And whether you do the repair with me or not, you know, I'm here for you. And I want people, and that's why my business does so well, is because people know they can call me at any time and ask questions.
I will say that I was referred here by two different people that I hadn't even told you their names, but they just recommended that I come here because they said they had great service.
Well, and service is number one. Service is key. You know, we want people to leave happy. Now, are you always going to get everybody to leave happy? Some people, they don't want to leave happy. They come in upset. They're going to leave upset sometimes. But number one for us is, did we do the job right? Did we take care of the customer the way that we needed to? And did that customer feel like that we were knowledgeable and that we were able to help them? You know, that's number one. Were they happy when they left because they got the correct help? You know, I hear so many stories of people who leave out and certain things were not fixed, or they tried to sell them on something that wasn't wrong. You know, I don't like that.
The next question that I had was, do you guys do any type of like warranty work here?
So a lot of the appliances and air conditioners, refrigerators, furnaces, hot water heaters, anything that does with appliances, yes, we are authorized to do that warranty. Now, obviously Keystone, because I don't sell Keystone, I'm not a Keystone authorized repair center. But that don't mean that you as a consumer can't call Keystone and say, listen, I'm unhappy with the local big box stores. I want to take it to Steve, or I want to take it over to Shelburne's and have them work on it. And a lot of times if you have that conversation with the OEM manufacturers, typically what they'll do is they'll say, okay, take it in, let them talk to us, let's find out what's going on, and then they'll send parts in. And normally what they'll do is they'll pay you as the consumer, and then you would pay me, and then they just reimburse you on the other end.
All right, so getting into why we're here today, in this system that you have in order to check seals and stuff. Let's start about, like, before this, what did you do traditionally?
Well, normally, of course, we do a lot of body damage repairs. We do a lot of water problems. You know, if you've got water leaking in, you're going to have some delamination and stuff like that. So traditionally in the past, if we tore it apart, we tried to seal it up the best we could. I've got a great group of guys. I probably got the best set of guys that I've ever had, and I believe they're the best in the Chattanooga area. They do real good work with what they do, but there's obviously certain challenges when it comes to water. How do you confirm you got all the water? I mean, you can tear the siding off, you can put it all back together, you can seal it, but that's, I mean, again, how do you know? And so kind of what happened with us is we had a Class C that the front bunk was leaking pretty bad, and everybody knows problems with Class Cs. They're all going to leak at some point in the front end of that thing because it's bouncing around, it's moving. Unless you've got a good fiberglass front end, that's the only time really, you know, we don't see a lot of problems with the big fiberglass, you know, one piece front ends. But some of the older ones, I mean, that's just it's a challenge. And so we had one that came back about 3 times. And so, you know, at that point, I got a customer that's frustrated. I got a customer that's upset. I'm frustrated because I'm trying to give him a good product. I'm trying to give him something that's not going to leak. So at that point, what do? So I had been looking online and actually came across the Sealtech sealing machine, which we'll get into that here in a minute. And so basically what that machine does, it actually pressurizes the inside of the motorhome between 2 and 3 PSI positive pressure. And then we'll go around the whole outside of it with soapy water, and wherever the bubbles come out, you know you got water that's coming in. And so this Class C we were working on, once we put the Sealtech machine on there was actually places that we had looked at that I would have never, I mean, they look good. Visually looking at them, there was nothing that I saw wrong with it. But once we got the machine on there and actually got the pressure in the camper, man, it was unbelievable the places that were leaking that we never would have thought to ever check or looked at, and we thought they were good. So it's really a tool every RV place can have or needs to have, because again, if you're bringing your coach to me, how do we know we got the leak? You know, and this is a service that we now sell, where you bring it in and we hook it up to your camper. We charge you an hour diagnostic, and then we advise you on where the leaks are at. Now, I had a Class C in here the other day that we hooked it up, and the back end of it actually blew out because it had massive water damage to the rear end of it. So the fiberglass actually came loose from the siding. So, you know, now once we fixed that, we were able to find all the other leaks that was going on with it. But how would you ever, you know, sometimes visually looking at it, it looks good. Okay, so basically on the what we're going to do here is we're going to go into one of the fan vents inside the unit. whether it's in the bathroom, living room, kitchen, just anywhere it's got a 14 by 14 vent in the ceiling. And we're going to take the lower assembly loose, and then in the kit they send you these brackets, and this will actually fit up in the ceiling, and then these clamps will hang on to this to pull down on the roof. And then we'll come in here with our lower assembly, which has got this nice gasket across the top of it, and basically pulls it against the top of the ceiling and makes a nice tight seal right here. Now, once we get that on, we'll actually bring the machine in there, and then it's got this accordion boot that raises up to match that, and then we've got a knob on the front where we can set the pressure for how much airflow we want going in there. Now, a little bit of a side note, if you do have the Camco cover over the top of your bathroom vent, the screen on the back of it that keeps the bugs coming in, we will need to pull that off, because we have noticed that when we do some of these, that the airflow is disrupted a little bit and it won't actually pressurize correctly. So if it does have a Camco cover on the top, I've just been taking it off to make sure we get a full airflow inside of it. Well, so basically we're just going to remove the vent assembly cover.
You said they recommended doing this with the slides in first, right?
Yeah, that way we can find out all the leaks on the outside, and then once we resolve those issues, then we'll run the slides out, and then we'll do the inside of the slides, make sure the slides are all good. Go ahead and open your vent all the way up. Remove the handle. We'll go ahead and set all this stuff out of the way. All right, at this point, go ahead and get our bracket pulled up in here. Set that on the top there. Brackets are going to hang just like this. And they've got these little chains that you have to adjust depending on how thick the roof ceiling is. So this one here, we'll just put it on this first link. All right, and then we should have enough linkage in this to be able to tighten that up. And we don't want to go real super tight, but obviously we want to go tight enough that it actually provides a nice seal. And so just, you know, hand tight. You can see it kind of smashing the gasket down there just a little bit. So that's a nice good seal for us right there. All right, we'll go ahead and bring the machine in. All right, so now that we got the actual machine in here, obviously we don't have far to go with this one because of the accordion in here. Some of them some of the bedrooms and living rooms and some of the other places. So it's got these little tabs right here that will actually go up in this and lock it in place. Get that in there, locked in place, good to go. We're going to hook our vacuum hose up here and then to the back of the gauge, just so we can see what kind of flow we're going to have here. And then, so obviously plugged up, and then once we get to going here, we can set our vacuum depending on what kind of height vacuum we want to do. We're going to set this one at about 4, and then all we have to do now is go outside and close the doors. All right, so one thing I wanted to show you guys, now that the machine's actually running and we've got some pressure going in there, we were talking about pressure a minute ago. You can see how much pressure, 4 PSI of positive pressure really is. So it doesn't take a lot of pressure in here to get this thing where we can start seeing what the leaks are. So now that I got the door closed, we're gonna grab the spray bottle and we'll start going around all the edges. So now that we've got our sprayer with the soapy water in, we're gonna go around all the edges and just see what starts showing up. And you just wanna give a generous, good coat all the way around all the places that you can spray real good so we can see what's going on.
How common do you think it is to find a leak in a camper that's less than 2 years old?
I would say probably very common, the way some of them are built nowadays. Now obviously some of these higher places we'll need to get out a ladder or scissor lift where we can get up and start seeing what's going on around that rail across the top. Right now we'll go ahead and grab everything we can reach down here. So we want to go over this camera that you installed. You said you had a little concern about that. We'll just see what we got going on there. Ladder points are always seem to have some leaks going on there, but they've got plenty of butyl tape around that one. Camera lights typically are always a good spot to really check because you have some water intrusion right there. So we got one little small leak right here at the slide seal. I definitely want to go over there and recheck that awning now. Just look at it one more time. And we see this quite often on a lot of these. So right here where the bolts hold the awning actually onto the frame, yeah, we're getting some bubbles. So right there where they've bolted it, there's some bolts here and there's usually one down about right in there. And those bolts will go to leaking real bad. And again, how would you ever find that if you didn't have this way to do that? I mean, you would never known to look behind that bolt in the awning. We already know we had something going on here. So let's get down to the root cause of it. Yeah, and see that sealant, I didn't even hardly do nothing. That sealant pulled right out of there. So we definitely know we've got a problem right there.
Hey guys, so it's the next day. We're just going to do a quick recap. Okay, so they found 4 leaks with the Sealtech machine on this camper. 4 leaks. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's not very many. Well, I bought this camper in May of 2019, and right now it's November of 2020. That's not a long time. I would still consider this a new camper, and it's got 4 leaks in it. And how would you have ever found them without this machine? So that's why I think it's important. The 4 leaks that we did find were the awning rail. I knew that the top had pulled away a little bit. They fixed that for me too, as you saw in the video. But the rail, the vertical rail, had a bolt that wasn't sealed, and so they caught that for me. You would have never knew that. You would have never knew that water could get in through that bolt hole. The second place was around the rear camera, and I did notice that the sealant had come loose there a little bit when I was replacing that camera with a halo view camera, but I wasn't sure if water was getting in there or not. I was going to eventually seal that back up, so that one I could have found myself. But the next one really caught me off guard. So it was at the power inlet box, right? It looked fine, but it has some big old honker bubbles coming out of the top of it, and that's the top of it. Like, some of these places, you know, if you find a leak and there's air bubbles coming out, but they're coming out like the bottom of the box, then, you know, maybe water's not going to get in there. This is the top of the box. The top of the box. Water falls down on the top. So that would have rotted pretty quick, I think. And then I had the bottom corner of the wardrobe slide that was leaking a little bit too. So Steve down at Shelburne RV fixed all that stuff for me, and I highly recommend them. No more than they charge for this service. There's no reason to not do it. I would probably do it every year because I've rebuilt a camper and I know how much it sucks. Let me give you a little refresher course right up here in the video. It wasn't fun. So 1 hour diagnostic fee tells you everywhere that there's a possible leak on your camper. How's that not worth it? That's going to save you a ton of money in the long run. I highly recommend Shelburne RV. I've heard nothing but good things from them from multiple people, and I'm a believer now too. So thanks, Steve. Thanks, Shelburne RV. We'll see you again.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.